A long-awaited Senate report confirms what once we considered unthinkable, even unspeakable. The President of the United States lied to Congress and to the American people to justify launching the first unprovoked war in United States history. Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Jay Rockefeller today releasing the long-awaited majority report with support from 2 Republicans on what President Bush and his top officials did and said regarding the intelligence they had, the intelligence they did not tell us they had, and in some cases, the intelligence they only said they had, ignoring evidence that cast doubt on their claims, inflating other claims, unsubstantiated claims, presented to us as certainties. The report creating new problems for Mr. Bush's chosen would-be successor, John McCain, who claimed just last week that every intelligence agency in the world and every intelligence assessment reported that Hussein had WMD.
I believe that Saddam Hussein presents a clear and present danger.
The claim McCain should have known was false, even before today's report reminded us that both State and Energy Department intelligence agencies had raised red flags about the WMD claims, red flags ignored by Mr. Bush, red flags his press secretary today claimed never reached the president's sight. A pleasure again to be joined by Richard Clarke, a red flag raiser in his own right as a counter-terror advisor to the last 2 presidents, now author of Your Government Failed You.
Good to be with you, Keith.
I use the word lie. The report does not use the word lie. Are there lies?
There certainly are, and this is a big report, but what it says is statements by the president were not substantiated by intelligence, and then it says statements by the president were contradicted by available intelligence. In other words, they made things up, and they made them up and gave them to Colin Powell and others. He was given intelligence that people in the intelligence community at the time knew were not true. This is not a case of 20/20 hindsight. This is a case of what was available then. The National Intelligence Estimate on Iraq and weapons of mass destruction was read by 7 senators before they voted to go to war. And one of them was the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, Bob Graham, who read it and went to the floor of the Senate and said, I've read it, I'm chairman of the Intelligence Committee, it's not persuasive, there's not a good case here for this war. So people had the opportunity at the time, if they were reading the intelligence that was available to them. And to say that this is only something that we could have known years later is just not true.
Well, we knew about Senator Graham's doubts. We already knew about the dissident intel agencies. The doubts about the aluminum tubes were instantaneous. The doubts about the clandestine meetings in Germany that never happened. So what are we to make now, in the light of the political realities of today, of Senator McCain's undiminished enthusiasm for and defense of the war, and specifically that this remarkable claim that every intel assessment of the time was screaming WMD?
Well, the Senator McCain statements are contradicted by the facts, too. The facts in a Senate report, the facts that Republican senators voted for. He is a big proponent of the war, but he's also now justifying the intelligence claims of the president, which now we have the evidence, we have the proof, 4 years too late, that those statements were flat out wrong. And these weren't close calls. They made things up. Well, Keith, the fact that 80–90% of the American people supported the president, that we were all wanting to do something about 9/11, doesn't change the legal responsibilities of the Congress to do oversight. It doesn't change the legal responsibilities of the intelligence community to analyze and report the truth. And very few of them did. One of them, the State Department Intelligence Community, the State Department Intelligence Bureau, was absolutely spot on. You never heard that at the time. You were never told that there were dissenting opinions.
Democrats, prominent Democrats today said that impeachment was not a remedy to this. But can anybody argue with a straight face, post-Lewinsky, that these lies, the blood and treasure that they cost us, don't demand some kind of remedy? And is there some other kind of remedy?
Well, there may be some other kind of remedy. There may be some sort of Truth and Reconciliation Commission process that's been tried in other countries, in South Africa, Salvador, and whatnot, where if you come forward and admit that you were in error, or admit that you lied, admit that you did something, then you're forgiven. Otherwise, you are censured in some way. I just don't think we can let these people back into polite society and give them jobs on university boards and corporate boards and just pretend that nothing ever happened when there are 4,000 American dead and 25,000 Americans grievously wounded, and they'll carry those wounds and suffer all the rest of their lives. Someone should have to pay in some way for the decisions that they made to mislead the American people.
Is Scott McClellan's book kind of the passageway from this being a theoretical discussion to almost a textbook saying how they managed to sell us this garbage?
Well, Scott McClellan's book is further proof. It's sort of the other end of this big Senate intelligence report. But Scott also is asking for forgiveness. You know, he asked me after he left your program, and I bumped into him, literally coming through the revolving door in a hotel. Or metaphorically, no, really, he was coming through a revolving door. And he asked me to forgive him. And I think we do have to forgive people who ask for forgiveness. You know, the 9/11 families forgave me my inadequacies in dealing with Al-Qaeda, and I greatly appreciated that. We do need to forgive people, but first they have to admit they lied.
A simple equation. Richard Clarke, former White House counterterrorism advisor and author of Your Government Failed You. As always, sir, a great pleasure. Thank you.